Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Cropper here. Bill Whittle is a pathetic little statist, and I lost all respect for him years ago when he posted a video one day, and I don't remember the exact title, but it was approximately something about 5-year plans for the right. And the video was about the 5-year plans that the left use. And he said they don't keep using them all the time. China doesn't use them all the time because they don't work. They obviously work. And he said we need to quit just running around on the right helter-skelter. We need to get together and get us a 5-year plan. Now the derision, the severe derision in the comment section was so abrupt and so powerful, I guess. The video did disappear that day, and I haven't seen it since. So he is jealous of the left and of their methods and of just the way that they think, everything about their central planning, their collectivism, their anti-individualism. He's jealous of it. So that's where I stand with Bill Whittle. Then, today, he posts a video, or somebody posts a video. This is on his channel, Bill Whittle, W-H-I-T-T-L-E. And to lead up to where we are at 1.5 minutes here, he shows Band-Aids, chapstick, Kleenex, and he's saying brand name, right? So think of this. Brand names, big, maybe Monopoly, ooh, bad, right? So that's what he's done for the first 1.5 minutes. He's got Kleenex, Band-Aids.
Whenever you apply a brand name to identify a
let me just turn it up, because is that
item, you can say at the very least that the product is so dominant in the marketplace that while there is technically at least some competition, there's really no competition.
So technically there could be competition, but there's really no competition when something reaches a monopoly stage. Now apparently he's saying that because that's a concern, right? We need to preserve competition, right? So he believes that.
And the same exact thing has happened to a company called Google. When you say you're going to Google something, you generally mean that you're going to use the Google search engine to go out onto the internet and come back with an answer.
So Google has reached the point of chapstick and Kleenex and Band-Aid. Okay, it's a generic word that we use for a given activity regardless of the fact that it's actually a brand name. Okay, he's making this case.
Most of the time, when we say we're going to Google something or someone, what we really mean is that we're going to find out whether something is true or not. Now, here's the problem. Q-tips.
Now, we do use Google a lot. Now we're learning that Google's a problem. And he's going to say now that Q-tips will work the same wherever you are. Band-Aids will work the same wherever you are.
Or a red one. Social media companies are not like that. It's been proven without question that Facebook, the Google search engine, and YouTube use purposely created algorithms to suppress conservative-leaning information and to promote progressive information.
Write a book about it. Publish the book. Get papers out. Talk to your friends. Do speeches on it. Teach classes on it at your local community college. Oh, those have been taken over by the government. Well, don't you regret that now? That the government's so heavy into education that you can't even go down to the local college and teach the kids anything because there's a goddamn riot going on down there. Don't you regret giving that over to the government? Well, I have a solution. Let's hand the internet over to the government. Let's let the government carve the internet up as it sees fit. Now, he has an example later. All right, let's let him talk a little more. He's got an example. He's digging himself a grave like he usually does because he's not principled. He can't think on principle. Freedom should be your guiding principle, Bill. Freedom should be your guiding principle. And whenever you say, let me just get the men with guns to go solve this, stop and check yourself and make sure that you aren't being threatened with guns. I don't think they're threatening us with guns, so I don't think that we're justified in using them. Humiliate them in public. Do speeches, write books, go teach a class at the community communist socialist training camp. Do something besides advocating for the government to go solve the problem. Come on.
That is as unfair, as criminal, as immoral, and as...
It's unfair! It's unfair! Criminal and immoral. If it's criminal, charge them with the crimes. Get on with it. Why are you on about this then? If it's criminal, then charge them with the crime then you don't need to break them up or whatever you're planning to do, whatever your sinister plan is.
American as it can be, and it has to stop. Because no one would tolerate a swab that used cotton for liberal ears but steel wool if you put it inside a conservative ear, or if your Kleenex was made of sandpaper if you didn't vote the way that the folks at Kleenex wanted you to vote. Chapsticks are not made out of sulfuric acid if you live in Texas. And
nobody will tolerate the garbage from Google either if we all talk about it enough and everybody knows about it and we believe it and we understand it.
Dade does not sell a tetanus-infected version of the bandage if they find out that a kid with a skinned knee has parents who vote Republican. So, here's argument number one for breaking up the social media companies. I maintain that biased search results and suppression of videos based on the whims of a bunch of arrogant, elitist, snot-nosed bastards up in Mountain View, California, is being done without our consent or even our awareness, and it is therefore a fraudulent business practice. Because
we didn't consent to it, and because we're not aware of it, therefore it's fraudulent. Now, Bill, can you make that as a pretty strong case in a court of law? Is it really fraud for those two reasons? If so, he says we can charge them with crimes. If so, then charge them with crimes. What else do you need to do? If you've already got them, then take the police down there and get them. What else do you need? If you've already got them committing crimes, you don't need to do some other socialist revolution like break the companies up.
People who run fraudulent businesses usually go to jail.
People who run fraudulent businesses usually go to jail, he whispers. Not sure if you were able to hear it. See? He does want to go down there and lock them up into jail because of the fraud they've been committing. Okay, then make the case for that. But to make the case for the government going in and breaking them up is extreme. It's extreme.
Argument 2. Google, YouTube, and Facebook are monopolies by any reasonable definition of the term. Now look.
So he's just saying, let's not quibble about this. They're definitely monopolies. So he's just justifying. Now, if he can prove they're actually monopolies, then he doesn't have to argue anymore about certain things, right? So let's not worry about that, whether or not they're a monopoly, because the objectivists don't care if they're a monopoly or not. The objectivists say that the government creates monopolies. If the monopoly occurs in the private economy, then it's a 90% or a 95 or a 97% monopoly. The government is the only thing that creates 100% monopolies. Bill Whittle would do well to remember that fact.
Electric company can't tolerate the idea that somebody thinks differently than they do. Well, that, my friends, is a different story altogether.
Now he says if the electric, just the examples he gave before was if a cotton swab was made out of steel wool if you were a Republican, or if Kleenexes were made of sandpaper if you were a Republican. He says if the electric company behaved in that way, then that's altogether different, because you can't move away from the electric company. You have to move to a totally different region. Like, they have whole regions. You can't move down the street. You can't change your electric company in the house that you're in. Now, Bill, how stupid are you? The electric company is a government monopoly. This does not prove your point. This proves that you can't think on principle. The fact that the government has riveted that monopoly onto us means that now we have no choice in the matter. And he says, now he's comparing a government monopoly to Facebook and Google, because Facebook and Google are nearly to the point, right? You have to virtually use Google, right? Virtually, almost. There's almost no choice. Well, that's not how the electric company is. There is absolutely no choice with the electric company. Even to the point where they'll come and tax you for your electric supply if you put solar panels on your roof and don't use their power. That's how stingy they are. So, not everywhere, but I've heard of cases like that. So, the government rivets a monopoly into place. A private company builds something that everybody likes using. Bill Whittle comes along and says, they are behaving similar to this government monopoly, which is atrocious. The government monopoly is atrocious. Therefore, use the government to tear down the guys that built something up voluntarily? Because the government monopoly's behavior is riveted onto us? That's not a good comparison, Bill. It's just junk thinking, Bill.
The electric company is a monopoly, and monopolies have to play by different rules because if I don't like their service, I don't get to go to another less fascist electricity provider. And I also don't get to go down the road of, hey, if you don't like your electricity, then just don't use it.
That's because
Argument
it's
number 3.
the government, Bill.
These left-wing social media companies are trying to have it both ways. You have to bake the cake, and they're going to tell you who can eat it, too. Now, as far as personal responsibility on the internet goes, it turns out you can either be a publisher or a carrier. I'm a publisher.
All right, now there's this argument about publisher versus carrier. And if there are legal definitions in place about what is a publisher and what is a carrier, then that maybe should be our avenue for attacking Google and Facebook. Maybe that's going to be the avenue. But why antitrust? Why carve them up? Now, we're going to get to the crescendo of his logic in just a second here. He hasn't reached his crescendo yet, ladies and gentlemen.
In exchange for saying whatever the hell I want to say, with no obligation to tell you whether I'm lying or not, I have to also assume the responsibilities that come with my editorializing. I am liable for all of my content. I can be blocked from using copyrighted materials. I can be sued for libel or defamation if I publish something I know to be untrue with malicious intent to harm someone.
Now, if that's different for Facebook and Google, then let's either change that law or hold them accountable to the laws that they're breaking if you're saying that they are breaking these laws. But then, okay, then you are not making a very good case for breaking up. Why break up YouTube, Google, and Facebook, he says, in the title of his video. You're not making a very good case for it, Bill. What you're saying is that we need to enforce the laws that they're breaking. Bill? Hello, Bill? Hello?
Facebook, YouTube, and Google claim that they're not publishers. They claim to be that other thing, a carrier. Carriers have different sets of rules. Imagine if I could sue YouTube if somebody reposted one of my videos without my permission. Not the channel owner who did it, but the parent company, YouTube itself. How many Star Wars...
So call your congressman, tell him this is important to you, that the carrier-publisher thing is messed up. Call your senator, tell him it's important. Publish a book, publish an article, get on YouTube and make a video about the publisher-carrier thing. He just puts it in here as point number 3 of why we should break them up, rather than as a central point of what we should do to fight them. You see, if we didn't have antitrust looking over our shoulder saying, you can just call me at any time, boys, you know, if we didn't have antitrust looking over our shoulder, then we wouldn't be thinking about antitrust, and we would be thinking about stuff like that. Like the fact that they're breaking this law or that law, or they're on some fuzzy gray line where we could hammer the line down with the law a little more clearly. We could do certain things without totally throwing away freedom and destroying freedom. The antitrust laws are an absolute travesty. Right? The electric companies are riveted onto us because of antitrust laws. And the crescendo of his logic involves the antitrust laws. We'll hear it pretty soon here.
Just how many Marvel Universe characters or video game clips and all of the other copyrighted material that's carried on YouTube or Facebook in any given day, how much is that? It's millions of them every single day. Could YouTube, not the user channel again, but the actual host company, if YouTube could be sued for every single one of those copyright violations, there wouldn't be any YouTube or Facebook or Google if that were it.
There, then that is a way that we could hold them accountable for laws that they're objectively breaking right now. Okay? There. Why do we have to go any further than that, Bill? And he says we could destroy them with those lawsuits. Okay? That's objective law that we already have on the books that they're already breaking. Okay? Enforce it. Find a congressman. Get over there and enforce it. They're not doing it because of money, you know. The government's being bought off.
They claim they're simply carrying that material and therefore they're not responsible for it. But by deciding what you see or don't see based on their own political views, well, that's just plain editorializing. And that makes them a publisher. And if they
okay, I get it. They're a publisher. Go enforce your laws now.
They'd be sued out of business by the end of the week.
All right.
If Google, YouTube, and Facebook are carriers, then deciding who gets to see what is against the law. But if they do get to decide who gets to see what, then they're not carriers, and they have to forfeit all of those protections. Now, these tech giants are not going to suddenly learn to behave themselves voluntarily, needless to say, which is why they need to...
So if they are breaking those laws, and they're not going to behave themselves voluntarily, and that's so far what we've counted on, then we need to start enforcing the law, right? We're getting to a point where these laws, which we just allowed them to voluntarily obey, now we need to start enforcing them, he says. Okay, then let's enforce them.
Broken up. Breaking up the phone company put them into competition with each other, the little pieces, the baby bells, and it turned a $5 per minute long-distance call into unlimited long-distance for a small monthly fee.
And that's the end of his video. Breaking up the phone company turned a $5 long-distance call into 25 cents a minute or whatever, some other thing, cheaper than whatever. It brought the price way down because lots of little carriers were now competing. Bill Whittle, sir, why did we have to break up Ma Bell? Who constructed Ma Bell? That's right. It was a government monopoly, which was then cut up by the government. Go figure. So his examples are all over the place. The electric company is an example of why monopolies are a different situation. And then the phone company is an example of why monopolies are a different situation. Those are both government monopolies, Bill. Now, if it's the case that YouTube gets to publish all this stuff and carry all this copyrighted material without paying any copyright damages, then it's making millions and millions of dollars off of the back of other companies and is breaking the law. If that's the case, then the fact that the government's not enforcing the law on them has allowed them to become the massive giant that they are. If that's the case, then not enforcing the law has got us into a problem. If that's the case, then we should enforce the law, Bill. You don't need to fantasize about using the antitrust powers. We should do away with antitrust law. It's a travesty every time we use it. It's a travesty with the electric company. It's a travesty with Ma Bell that we had to break up, as you said. Bill can't think in principle, and I don't expect him to start anytime soon.